Good afternoon, everyone. I would have started my talk by saying good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, but that would not cover all of us. Today, I will be speaking about gender identity, more specifically, the small group in society who are neither ladies nor gentlemen, as well as discussing the system we live in society right now, known as the gender binary. But to understand all these big words better, we must understand what is gender anyway. I believe that gender is simply just a box to be ticked off, and here's why. 10 years ago, with my hair grown all the way back here, rocking my favorite pink shirt and carrying a doll around the small mall near my house, someone mistaken me for a girl. I was deeply offended and fiercely told the man that I was in fact a boy. But since this rather embarrassing incident, I've been mulling over one question. Then what does it mean to be a boy? If the sight of my 6-year-old self carrying these stereotypically feminine traits was enough to have me mistaken as a girl, then isn't gender simply just those invisible rules and those stereotypical labels that we assign? And if that was the case, why should there be only 2 genders if everyone were their own individual selves? We live in a society plagued by the belief that everyone is either male or female. We look at a baby's genitals and we decide from that whether they're male or female. If they have a penis, a boy. If a vagina, a girl. Simple, right? But from their biological sex, we also dictate everything expected of that person as they grow up. We tell them what toys they must play with, what clothes they must wear, what colors they must like, what careers they must pursue, who they have to be. And this is why gender is different from sex. It has nothing to do with their private parts or chromosomes or all that biology. It's simply a set of social traits and expectations and behaviors that we put upon someone as they grow up. Throughout the years, we've whittled out these neat labels that we assign to each gender. Men are strong, emotionless, aggressive fighters. Women are weaker, they're subtle, and they get emotional. Men, shorts. Women, skirts. Men, doctors. Women, nurses. Boys, cars. Girls, dolls. Boys, blue. Girls, pink. As you can see, I really went for that last one today. These neatly carved gender roles have been instilled into us on a daily basis. In a way, we are our gender because we let it define us. It wasn't until a phone call I received about 10 months ago when I began to realize just how nonsensical and hollow these labels really are. I received a phone call from my mom. I picked up, and in a panicked voice, she said, "I accidentally bought toothpaste for men." My heart stopped beating. My phone slipped from my hand. No, not really. In all seriousness, what was the difference between toothpaste for men and for women? And what about shampoo? What about toilets? What about clothing lines? What about people? Besides our biological sex, what makes all of us different? Not much. And because of this, this is why I believe that we should revolutionize gender. Instead of using it as a machine to separate and segregate people, we should use it as a tool to help people celebrate everyone as unique individuals. So as I said, gender is not tangible. It is completely social. It is completely social and in a way completely made up. And it is definitely not a black or white concept. It is not having a penis or having a vagina. It's a mixture of traits. In fact, we are all a mixture of traits. We all have times where we lead, which society prescribes as being masculine, and we all have times where we feel emotional, a trait that society prescribes as being feminine. So if we are a mixture of all these traits, then essentially, I believe that gender lies on a spectrum. And this tectonic shift in the way that gender is perceived in society today has given rise to a number of many gender identities which do not simply fit onto the male and female gender binary. We refer to these people simply as non-binary identities because they don't fit onto the gender binary. Here is an infographic to show just some of these identities. Now, in case any of you are still wondering how could all this exist when you can only have a penis and a vagina, I must reiterate that sex is vastly different from gender. And although we may not have time to delve into the details of what each of these symbols mean, we can acknowledge that some people simply do not fit onto the male and female gender binary. And to help you understand that better, I will show you two colors. Red in this case represents a man, and yellow represents a woman. Now, for most of us here, our color is really, really close enough to either of these that it wouldn't hurt to be labeled as red or yellow, as a man or a woman. But humans are not built to conform to such simple binaries. So for some of us, we may feel that our colors may look like this, or this, or this, or perhaps even this. Now, these colors do not belong in two separate groups. And you can appreciate that some people just do not belong, and it would be inaccurate to label them as a man or a woman. So if this is the case, does it make any of these colors any less real than red or yellow, just because they do not fit? Well, no. But unfortunately, non-binary people face major consequences in the world today. So as you know, when making online profiles, you are often asked to specify your gender along with your date of birth and your name and your email address. I decided to see how many popular websites, some of which are the most influential and popular of these sites, to see how many it would take me to find the golden website that accommodates the option of not being male or female. It was frustrating going through all these websites that all of us have used at some point in our lives and being met with a mere two genders. So what is the message here? In the 52 websites that it took me to find that golden website, the message was simple. Your gender does not exist. Not only this, but people in real life trying to make a passport, trying to make IDs or driver licenses will likely be met with the same problem. Worldwide, only 8 countries legally recognize the existence of a gender which is not male or female. Again, in the rest of the world, the message is this: your gender does not exist. Not only this, but 7 out of 10 people in society believe that there are only 2 genders. So in other words, in the majority of society, your gender does not exist. And just like how gay marriages cannot take place in many parts of the world, or how transgender people are forced to use the toilets intended for their birth-assigned gender, denying someone of their true identity hurts everyone. But thankfully, there are things that we can do to make society more open and kindly accommodating for these gender identities. But not simply that, but just a less pressuring place to be for people of all gender identities to feel that they are included and accepted in society. One solution that I propose to redefine gender is to work towards a gender-neutral future. A gender-neutral future is a future and a society which is free of gender systems, free of gender segregation and stereotypes. In the last few years, we saw a major revolution in how gender is marketed and perceived in society. We've seen major toy outlets lose its male and female toy section, and we've heard the praise from all the happy parents about how this has benefited their children and their mindset. We've seen public services such as the London Underground change its wording from gender-specific language, ladies and gentlemen, to everyone. And it is the small things that make society more open and more inclusive to everyone. Again, this is not a future which is just better for people who identify as non-binary, but for everyone to live free of these unhealthy and oftentimes stressful stereotypes that are put upon us. Something else, and perhaps most importantly, we must learn to unlearn these harmful stereotypes. We must not be afraid to burst free of these rigid boxes that have for so long oppressed us from doing what we want, but instead have to conform and do what we see fit society and fit its standards. We must not be afraid to call out sexism and let them know that 18 years into this millennium, there is no place for sexism. And by unevolving the stigma surrounding those who are not the perfect archetype of each gender, we are essentially erasing the pressure to conform. And by erasing the pressure to conform, we are basically making society a more happy place for not just the minorities who identify as non-binary, but again for everybody. There will be no need for men to feel that they have to bottle up their emotions because that is what society wants. There will be no need for women to feel that they have to sit back and look pretty, even though they want to get up and fight, especially on International Women's Day. And there's definitely no need for anyone in between to feel that they have to conform. But if there's one last message that I can leave, it is this. When we detect something that is different or against what we've been told our whole lives, or perhaps even illogical from a scientific point of view, we tend to hate. And we tend to turn our faces around from that idea. And although you may not understand why I believe that a gender-neutral future and why people are choosing and opting for a gender-neutral future and why that is an idea I believe is worth spreading, or you may not understand why non-binary people feel that they don't fit onto the male and female spectrum, the most important thing is respect. And as long as we take the chance to make changes towards a society which is more respectful for people with all our differences, we can do no wrong. So today, although gender may define us, I believe that tomorrow we can redefine gender. Thank you.